because we're already in the heat of very interesting discussions with Sam. So I think we should just kick it off straight away.
Thank you.
So anyway, so here goes the formal start. Hello and a big and a warm welcome to season 3 of Guts, Glory and Story. We took a break in season 2 because of some COVID emergencies, but here we are back. And if you remember, we had closed by changing our format from season 1. We began this entire series trying to decode what the new normal would look like in season 1, where we were decoding industries and businesses. And we got a feedback from all of you saying, where are the stories of guts and inspiration? Your title says Guts, Glory and Story. And so we abandoned trying to decode industries and focused more on human stories. And that's what we did in season 2. And here we are, back again to doing the same thing with yet another powerful lineup of speakers. For those of you who don't know us, I am Sangram Surve. I'm a serial entrepreneur, currently an ad man, and also a filmmaker. And with me is my illustrious co-host, Alok Sinha, who's also a serial CEO, serial entrepreneur. He's an author and also an investor. And here we are. And what a grand way to start with someone who's actually shaped the computer and the IT revolution in this country. When we read Sam's story, it was so fascinating to know that a man believing in the Gandhian philosophy went to the US in a very maverick way, I would say, on a boat, struck a fortune, became a millionaire there. And unlike most people who would abandon Indian citizenship and go to the US, here's a man who did the reverse. He abandoned his US citizenship and came back to India to do what? To serve the nation. He partnered with Rajiv Gandhi and he shaped the computer and IT revolution in the country. I'm not going to tell too much of his stories because that's what the whole session is all about. And to introduce him formally, I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Alok. But before that, just how the evening is going to pan out. It's the usual stuff for those of you who attended our sessions. There are going to be 4 or 5 questions which will span across Sam's entire life story. Post that, all of you audiences have posed certain questions to us. We'll go through those. And I hope we will be left with some time for some live questions from the audience, if at all, right? So let's get braced up for some interesting conversations. I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Alok, to formally introduce Sam and kick it off. Over to you, Alok.
Thank you, Sangram. Welcome, Mr. Pitroda, to Guts, Glory and Story. And I must say, you need no introduction to any citizen of this country or even globally. So I will spare everyone of that introduction, but Mr. Pitroda, you are a fearless leader. And you have no trepidation at all whatsoever walking on extremely unconventional roads or challenging the status quo, or even telling the Prime Minister of this country that you would need more than 10 minutes from her if you were expecting to change the course of this nation. In fact, many significant moves that you made, they were fraught with so much of risk. So here's my first question to you, Sam. You came from a very humble background, and people like your father or Mahatma Gandhi and even President Kennedy influenced you a lot. Tell us more. How did they help in building a larger-than-life personality like you? What were the ingredients you learned from them, Sam? Over to you.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you, Sangram. I sincerely appreciate this opportunity to talk to both of you. I'm delighted to be here to share bits and pieces of my journey. As Alok said, I was born and raised in a small little tribal village in Orissa during British Raj. I was born in 1942. At that time, Gandhiji was the father figure fighting for independence. Being a Gujarati family settled in Orissa, Gandhi was a connection back home. Because in those days, it used to take 4 days of train journey to go from Orissa to Gujarat. So my parents, who had 4th grade education, with simple people, ordinary people, had 5 big pictures in our house of few rooms of Indian leaders: Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Nehru, Sardar Patel, Maulana Azad, and Subhash Chandra Bose. So as little children, we grew up looking at those big pictures every day because they were larger than life to us. And we sort of grew up in an environment where values like truth, trust, love, inclusion, diversity, freedom, independence were discussed, debated, uh, and valued, because that was a different time. Then when Sardar Patel died, because I remember exactly as a child when Mahatma Gandhi died, my father came home and said, Gandhiji just got shot. And my mother said, Ram Ram. And we all had to take a bath as if somebody in the family had died. So when Sardar Patel died, my parents decided to send me and my brother to a boarding school in Gujarat, which was a Gandhian boarding school. A lot of discipline, a lot of sort of work that you have to do yourself. You have to wash your own dishes. You have to wash your own clothes, all that stuff at the age of 10, 11, which was, pretty courageous of my mother, I would say. So first, real credit goes to my parents who really let us get free at very early age. Never ask a question. What do you do? What grades you got? What standard you are studying in? Never, because it didn't matter to them. But we knew that they loved us, they'll support us, and we understood the obligations and responsibilities, unknowingly, unwittingly. So I think that molding in life was very critical going forward. Values, character became the core foundation to build everything on. And then, I was the first one in my family to get a degree from college. I liked physics and maths, so I went to physics and maths. And then, like you said, read about Kennedy, John Kennedy, taking man onto the moon. And it was romantic. For a young man of 22 year, what a way to imagine the journey, saying, you got to go join this dream. So I came to America.
Because that was my next question, actually, because I think not just the point of going to America, but I think what I heard about your story is how you went to America. I mean, on board. I think that is what fascinated me the most. So take us to that journey of going to America and then striking it rich as an IT entrepreneur.
See, when I decided that I want to go to America, my older brother was very supportive because he had left college after 2 years to help father. Financially, we were not well off. And going to America was expensive. I used to manage my life out of tuition fees. I used to teach students, because I was good at math and physics. So I will teach math and physics and earn fair amount of money, to live comfortably myself. We are a family of 8 brothers and sisters. So I had my sisters with me. I had my younger brother with me. And my older brother had gone back to Orissa. So I had collected some money and I bought a piece of land from that money. And then when I decided to go to America, I didn't have any cash left. So I really needed $800, which is 4,000 rupees to pay tuition for one semester, and $600 for the ticket to travel. So I requested government of Orissa, and they gave me 3,000 rupees loan. Okay, in those days that was about 5 rupees a dollar, so $600, and I said that's a great support. And with very little money and a lot of ignorance, I took a boat from Mumbai to Karachi, Karachi to Aden, Aden to Alexandria,
Wow.
through Suez Canal.
Wow.
Then took a bus in Egypt along with other people from the boat to see the pyramid, connected at the other end of the canal, and then landed up in Naples, went to Pompeii, and from Naples went to Genova in Italy. And from Genova took a train to London. From London took a plane to New York, and from New York took a bus to Chicago.
Wow.
And I wanted to experience all of these things as a young man, because I had never been out before. I had never been to a 5-star hotel. I had never used telephone in my life before coming to America, because we were too poor to have telephone. And if somebody had a telephone, he was too rich to be my friend. We had never seen television. And the world was very sort of narrow in terms of view and understanding and approach. But the dream was very big. Dream was unknown. So came to America and had no idea what is hamburger, what is hot dog, what is steaks, nothing. Okay. Didn't know the names of the food. You'll have to say, give me green, give me yellow. Okay. Because I'd never seen all these things. I had not seen revolving door. I'd never seen a doorknob. And I was fascinated with doorknob, the design of the knob. Okay. So it opened up whole new world to study, to examine, to observe, to interact with, and that led me to the path of questioning and searching and curiosity, and the training in physics added that curiosity. So I would say discipline was part of the learning in boarding school. Creativity came from looking at totally new world. Okay. I had a girlfriend in India. So I changed my plan to get a PhD in physics because it was going to take 7 years. So I said, I want to just get something done in a year, call her and get married, and then we'll see what happens. So I changed it to electrical engineering, got a job, because in those days, all the jobs were defense jobs, because of Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And I was young and I was drafted to go to Vietnam. So I didn't go to Vietnam. I asked for occupational deferment because I was doing my PhD part-time. And then called my girlfriend, got married in America, and started my life. Okay. And everything was an adventure. Had no money. And then being part of a large family, I saw that the only way to get family out of poverty was to get everybody in America. So one by one, got everybody to US, put everybody through college, brothers, sisters, everybody got married, have children and grandchildren, and we have a huge family in US now. We have nobody in India. My parents died in America as American citizens. My father-in-law died here at 103. with us. So we have everybody in the US now, my brothers and sisters and others. And it gave us an opportunity to change the landscape completely. But then 60s and 70s were very exciting times in America. It was quite an interesting journey personally. I worked by accident in telecom, digital communication in 1965, and digital communication was not even heard of. So I got to participate at the bleeding edge of technology, not leading edge, very early in life without really understanding what all of that was. So when people talk about startups and all these new management techniques, and you read articles in Harvard Business Reviews and all, we practiced that in 60s and 70s, but we didn't know what it was. Okay, non-hierarchical structure, open office, it just happened, and we had no idea that this is what was going on. After 20 years, when somebody wrote it, we said, maybe that's what that was. So we started journey in building digital switching. After a while, I decided to start my own business, because I needed more money. I was the only earning member in the family. Everybody was going through school and, this and that, and lots of requirement, and we never had any money. So by accident, I got to meet two Americans, Alan Brown and Clint Penny. They had a business, and we started a business on digital switching, where I became a small partner. It was their money and my know-how. And then I learned a lot of management techniques to build a larger team. In those days, I had 100 software people. When floppy disk was just being introduced, Intel was just being formed. So I was part of the Intel sort of, customer in the early days to use their 4-bit microprocessor. So I have seen connectivity revolution from vacuum tube to transistor, because transistor was born after I was born.
65, chocolate.
Microprocessors to all kinds of, software development, and there was no Apple, there was no Microsoft, there was nothing. Okay, I've seen all of that evolve. And in the process, I also evolved. So now I understand the power of hyperconnectivity. I understood the power of connectivity. We had no idea that connectivity will get transformed into hyperconnectivity in 20 years. No one had thought of internet. No one had thought of cloud computing. Okay. So I think the journey, on one hand, a personal journey from a small little tribal village to coming to America, settling in Chicago. And on the other hand, the technical journey from vacuum tube to internet and smartphones and all that has been a very interesting sort of experiences. And to me, life is all about experiences. Life is not about making money. If I had an option, I would like to optimize my experiences in life. And money is just an instrument to optimize experiences. But experience is not in luxury. Experience is in human interactions. Experience is not about taking $100 million yacht and go in an ocean, but spend some time with a fisherman on the shore. That is the experience that is more valuable to me. So I saw a Gandhian way throughout in my journey. And to me, Gandhian way implied basically truth, trust, love, inclusion. Treat everybody with dignity and respect. recognize that our world is diverse. It's good to have diversity. It'd be boring for me to have you and me talking about same stuff over and over again. I want to
But,
know your other experiences, because that's the joy of life. We all eat different food. We all look different. We all, dress differently. And that is the beauty of our interaction, So when I go to South India, I feel great. It's my home. When I go to North India, that's my home. When I go to, Africa, I feel at home. I travel a lot to Mexico. I'm at home. And what an experience, dealing with different kinds of culture, different kinds of food, languages, sound and smell. And to me, optimizing experiences in life is the greatest joy of life.
Wow.
So Mr. Pitroda, I think when I started, I said fearless as a moniker for you. I think it's fearless everything, fearless voyager, fearless experimenter, fearless seeker, fearless everything. And money was just an outcome. But I want to draw, this conversation to something which you said when we were having a discussion, a very, very, very profound statement you made. You had achieved everything. You were a millionaire or multimillionaire. And you didn't actually need to do anything. The whole family there, everything done. But you said, and I had written it down, it was Rajiv Gandhi who gave meaning to my life. From an engineer, I became a shaper of this country. And you used the term connecting India. Tell us a little bit more about this life-defining journey and tell us what difficulties did you face in such a highly political environment in India? Remember, you were not part of the political fraternity. You were from outside. You were bringing, the brain power into this country. That part of your journey, which changed the landscape of this country. Please tell us more about it.
And even the bridge between, US and India, how did that bridge happen? Back again, how did the chance to meet Indira Gandhi come again?
See, at the age of 38, I sold the company, Westcom, along with my partners to Rockwell International. Made a little bit of money. For a guy who never had any money, this was a huge thing. And this was 1980. When interest rates were very high. Certificate of deposit was 12%, unheard of. So I said, what do we do with all this money? And I decided to come to India to take my parents to see Taj Mahal. And my parents came from Orissa. I stayed at the Taj Mahal Hotel in Delhi, Mansingh Road. And this was an experience for my parents. Okay. And I wanted to basically show off to my parents that, look, your boy has made it, and we are all happy and everybody has enough money now and nothing to worry. And you are coming to America and you are staying with us and, it'll be all a different life for you and all that stuff, I wanted to show off unconsciously. So I took them to Taj Mahal. And then we tried to call my wife from Delhi and couldn't make a phone call. So a little bit of arrogance and a lot of ignorance said, I'm going to fix it. If I had known everything I know about India today, Indian bureaucracy, I would have never tried it. So ignorance is a great asset. I didn't know how difficult it is going to be. And sometimes arrogance helps. Okay. And I knew that I can afford to be arrogant because I knew my technology. I knew my subject. Okay. So finally, in 1974, I was asked by IEEE. IEEE is an organization called Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, which is the largest professional organization in engineering field. They had asked me to do a special issue of IEEE transaction on telecommunications in developing countries. I was a young guy then. And that assignment gave me time to review global communication because I was the chief editor. So I'd get an article from Iran, Indonesia, every other place, and realized that telecom in the world is the key. Telephone density then was the measure. So if you are rich, you have lots of phones. And if you have lots of phones, you are rich. So the connection between GDP and telephone was clearly established in my mind. So I then realized that I got to change telecom in India. But how do you do it? I didn't know anybody. I had no idea. I didn't know any bureaucrat. I had no idea what Minister of State meant, what is Joint Secretary, Under Secretary, I had no clue. Okay. So I then talked to some people and they said, if you really want to do something big, you got to talk to Mrs. Indira Gandhi. Through somebody, I got an appointment for 10 minutes and I changed it. I said, no, I don't want 10 minutes. If she's really sincere, she must give me an hour. And everybody thought this guy is crazy. In middle of nowhere, he comes, from no background and he wants an hour with the Prime Minister. Yeah. And there also arrogance helps, saying, no, I don't have to do it. If she doesn't want to do it, fine. And finally, after 8 months, I got an hour. And she was very kind. She had her entire cabinet with her at her house. Pranab Mukherjee and Arjun Singh and Venkatraman, and they were all there. And that's when I met Rajiv Gandhi for the first time. And we were just about same age. We connected. And at the end of my presentation, Mrs. Gandhi sort of nod her face and says, good. My message was that we can transform India by connecting India. And connected India will basically develop faster. So I was asking for $36 million or 36 crores then, 36 months to develop Indian product, Indian know-how, made in India, manufactured in India, developed in India, designed in India, at a time when no one knew how to do these things. And I was not asking for technology from anywhere. Yeah. Government approved the project, which was called CDOT, Center for Development of Telematics. And we focused then on rural telecom, access to telephone, apples to telephone density, young talent, local ancillary industry. Everything was very different because it was ground up or bottom up approach and not top down approach. It was Gandhian approach to telecom in many ways. Okay. And government approved and we started it. And unfortunately, right after that, Mrs. Gandhi got killed. Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister. And here I spent an hour in January of 85. And I decided I need to come back to India. I realized that this is a huge opportunity to transform a nation. So I had to make a very personal choice at that point in time. Do I want to build a business in telecom and become very rich? Or I want to help build a nation, give up everything. And even if you're a pauper, that's okay. But you will have an opportunity of lifetime to help build a nation. So I made that choice after talking to my wife and, saying, look, we are going back. So I came back to India, worked with Rajiv Gandhi on telecom, technology missions related to water, immunization, literacy, edible oil, milk production, and all that. And he gave meaning to my life. All of a sudden, I realized that I'm no longer just an engineer. I have an opportunity to help build a nation. And that would imply sacrifice. That would imply a lot of fights with people. People will abuse you. People will, hate you for your guts. But you got to stay course and do what needs to be done. So I had the most interesting and romantic time of my life working with Rajiv Gandhi. I've seen my children growing up horizontally and not vertically. In other words, I would leave when they were sleeping, and when I came home, they were sleeping. And it was being like on drug all the time, high. You're making big decisions and working with all kinds of people, learning new things. And how do you get an opportunity like that in lifetime? And one thing led to another thing led to another, and you got to meet all these great global leaders from Gorbachev to you name it, okay? And you were right there building a nation. And then unfortunately, Rajiv Gandhi died. And I also ran out of money. What looked like a lot of money in 79, 80 turned out to be not enough money in 1990. I had two children ready to go to college. I had no money to pay for their tuition. And nobody knew in the family because everybody assumed that everything is great. And I had given up my US nationality. I had gone through a heart attack.
You didn't mention Sam, but Sam didn't mention to the audience, but when he came back to work for Rajiv Gandhi, he literally worked for no salary at all. He worked on a salary of rupee, right?
I worked in India all along, even with Dr. Manmohan Singh. I never took any salary, never took any expenses. No TAD, there's nothing. Whenever I went on travel, you get TAD, I never took that. Okay. Even when I went on a foreign trips, government will give you some TAD and all that. I just never took it. Whatever is the expense, if somebody pays for my hotel, fine. If somebody paid for my dinner, fine. Otherwise, it didn't matter to me. Those things didn't matter. Okay. So then I had to come back. I had to rebuild my life. I was shattered. Losing Rajiv Gandhi was a great loss to me personally. And I sincerely believe it was a great loss to the nation. All these opposition guys, undermine what he did and all that. They have no clue. They are ignorant. They are naive. What got done in Rajiv Gandhi's time is what we are enjoying today. Whether it is telecom, IT, then we had 2 million phones. Today we have 1.2 billion phones. Then we had zero software export. Today we have $250 billion worth of software exports, or 200 billion. We built supercomputers of our own called Param. So we started so many new interesting things. We planted seeds. We didn't see the fruits of it. Doesn't matter. Somebody has to plant a seed. We really emphasized literacy, education, clean water. We did all of that. And then it was very difficult to privatize anything. We privatized telecom. We created MTNL, BSNL, VSNL. We allowed private parties to come and, get licenses for cell phone and all. We did all that. No one understands what it means to plant seeds, because most of the people just want some sound bites. And they want to spread wrong messages. Rajiv Gandhi got killed because of a lie. And today lies sell like hotcakes. What was the lie? Bofors. Gali gali mein shor hai, Rajiv Gandhi chor hai. Rajiv Gandhi was not chor. There was no sore in Gully, but that was a slogan that VP Singh made. And poor Rajiv Gandhi lost election, undermined his security, and finally got killed. Just based on one lie. Couldn't prove anything. I know I had asked Rajiv Gandhi, and I know he didn't take any money himself at all, and he didn't know who took the money. Today also, there are all kinds of lies being propagated. Okay. So when VP Singh government came, there were lies about me. First, that I was a US citizen. So I had to show my passport in the parliament. Indian parliament had a discussion on my passport. Okay, you can go see the parliament record. Then they said I stole $36 million in a $36 million project. I mean, how can you say that? Okay. Forget about the fact that I took ₹1 salary. But if it is a $36 million project, there are 400 people being paid every day. There is expense. How could you steal all 36 million? But then when you lie, you might as well lie, good. And that's what goes on in our politics. Allegations after allegations without any proof. Court cases go on and headlines go on the paper, and poor people understand very little. Okay. So they kept saying, oh, Congress government is corrupt and corrupt. Congress is not corrupt. Some congressmen may be corrupt. So you got to distinguish these two things. So I think lies are a big, big threat to our democracy, and I'm seeing it today, the result of it. Lies sell. Okay. So I got into a situation where I had to come back to US because I could not make money honestly in India of that kind to pay for my children's tuition. Government salary didn't mean anything. I didn't have money to start my business. And I didn't want to raise my hand to anybody saying, give me some help. So I came back, but then I had no visa to come back. I'd given up my nationality. So I came back on a tourist visa. And I had a heart attack. So I was a little more concerned about my health. And life looked very different. I had to rebuild my life. But nobody in my family, including my wife, knew that I was broke. So I started a business because on tourist visa, you couldn't work. So I started a business in my wife's name and children's name, built a business in Milwaukee. Slowly and slowly, then I applied for green card on my wife's name because she was a US citizen. And then starting a business in America didn't interest me. So I decided to start a bank in London for the United Nations called WorldTel to privatize telecom in developing world. So I was the first one to invest $100 million in Mexico to privatize telecom in Mexico. Invested a lot of money in Africa to privatize telecom in, Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, and all that. Okay. And that was romantic. I worked on that for a while. And then Manmohan Singh government came back to power. I went to campaign in 2004 because I believed that Rajiv's dream was unfinished. And when Manmohan Singh came to power, I decided to work on National Knowledge Commission because I realized that the telecom revolution is over. That ball is rolling. That train has left. Now we need to prepare a train for education, knowledge. We need to prepare a train for digital India and for innovation. So I got to work on these three important areas. And then once again, when Congress government lost, I decided to come back. So I lived on both sides of the world. I lived in America, lived in India. I'm as comfortable in America as an American citizen. Even though I have Indian passport, doesn't mean anything. And I'm as comfortable as in India as an Indian citizen. Okay. And I have no issues of loyalty or anything. I'm loyal to truth. Okay. I'm loyal to values, democracy, human rights, freedom, liberty mean a lot to me. That's what attracted me to America. Okay. And I'm a strong believer in some of these values. Of course, we haven't reached that potential in inclusion, diversity, all that, but that's a journey. We have to keep moving. Okay. So that was another phase of my life. And then when we lost election, I decided to write a book on my life, a book called Dreaming Big, My Journey to Connect India. And it was more about what happened in Rajiv Gandhi's time and how we did all of these things. And I wanted to tell a story to my own grandchildren. Because when they grow up, someday they would be wondering, who was this old man who came to America 75 years ago, 100 years ago? What did he do? What kind of a man was he? Whatever story his or her parents will tell, because they were all born here, it will be very different from the story I have to tell. Because my children cannot relate to Belgadi for traveling. Walking with a, bag on your head for 14 miles to go to a train station. They cannot relate to that. I did all that. So my journey has been very different from their journey. So I decided to write a book. And then when I was locked down during Corona crisis, for 14 months I was at home, didn't leave my house at all. Somebody used to deliver all the groceries. And for 14 months, my wife and I, 15 months, did not drive a car or went on a road. And at that point in time, I once again decided to write another book based on my journey on connectivity in the global scenario today, in the role of hyperconnectivity. This book is just published, called Redesign the World, a global call to action. So I would say I had a very interesting journey in the process. People of India have been very generous to me, loving, caring. I find average person in India is just superb human being. No matter what you say about corruption, no matter what you say about whatever else you say, you saw that during Corona crisis. Local community came to help. Okay.
Yeah.
So people are good. People mean well, but they need a role model. They need today another Gandhi. They need today someone to lead with honesty, sincerity, openness, transparency. They need character, vision. And I think we are caught up on petty issues world over, not just India. We have rise of populist attitude all over the world. Everybody wants to focus on divisive politics. Everybody blames everybody else for everything except themselves. So I think things have changed a lot. But I hope that hyperconnectivity will change the lives of our children and their children in the next 20, 30 years.
Sam, I'd like you to stay on this one just for a moment more. When you spoke about redesign the world, you also spoke about that there needs to be a change. And you said it's an evolutionary change, not a very revolutionary change, to take humanity to the next level. I think in the book, you also talk about the fact that what happened 50, 75 years ago was valid for that point in time. What is happening today may be different from what happened there. So, and it's all about making world a better place for everyone. What in your mind is the change, and how do we adopt that? If you can also talk about that.
You see, the world was designed about the time I was born in 1942 by a group of experts in America and Europe, which gave birth to UN, World Bank, IMF, NATO, WTO, WHO, GDP, GNP, per capita income, and all that. That design is being followed by the rest of the world for the last 75 years. There's no change in the design at all. We measure things based on GDP, GNP, we go to UN and follow this and human rights and this commission and that commission. And there is a rule of law at international level that we follow. I think that has been a great contribution by US. Rule-based system has been established. But at that time, there were two power centers. The world was bipolar, US and Soviet Union. Okay. US design was based on democracy, human rights, capitalism, consumption, and military. Soviet Union camp was exactly opposite. Dictatorship or party-based control. No emphasis on human rights. Capitalism was controlled by state-based economy, state-controlled economy. Consumption was completely controlled. Only few things were available that state wanted to produce, but military was on both camps. This design served us well. It increased longevity, decreased infant mortality, democratized technology. Technology is pervasive now, and it lifted millions from poverty all over the world. But at the same time, it made huge blunders on environment. Our environment is in a mess. Global warming is a classical conversation that we all have all the time. It has not eliminated poverty, hunger, violence, and we have a lot of problems to solve in this world. So when you look at this design, it is clear that the design has outlived its utility. Because today we live in a hyper-connected world. Hyper-connected world imply not only connectivity to talk, but content. It implies context. And because of hyper-connectivity, information and knowledge has been democratized. Implementation is being decentralized. And a lot of the services are being demonetized. Transportation, take Uber, hotel, take Airbnb. So all of these things are changing. And hyperconnectivity is changing everything. It is changing our education, our health, our governance, business, marketing, retail, distribution, delivery, banking. Not a single area of human activity that I know of today that is not affected with hyperconnectivity. So on one hand, technology has been pervasive. On the other hand, we are using technology only to do the things that we have been used to doing and not do the things that we have never done before. So hyperconnectivity is the biggest disruptor. For the first time in the human history, all 8 billion people are connected. Never happened before. A great human accomplishment. We have not celebrated. I mean, we don't realize in such a short period of time, the whole of India is connected. Of course, there are pockets where there is no connectivity, but when you have 60, 70, 80% connected, it's like the vaccine. You know, you say everybody's vaccine. You know, the minimum critical mass is 70, 75, 80%. Okay. So what does it mean to live in a hyper-connected world? what does it mean in terms of borders, nationality? I could be living in America, working in Mexico, have non-profit activity in India, getting paid by German company, and I may be getting paid in Brazil. So digital citizenship brings about a whole new set of values. On one hand, digital rights. What are my digital rights? How do I cross borders with my digital rights? What does nationality mean in terms of digital rights? And what are my digital obligations? When I have digital rights, I have digital obligations. And very few people understand a lot of these issues. Today, social media is a classical example. You can hide behind the veil by registering as some fake and then start behaving very differently. And non-authenticated behavior is a big problem in social media. So when I looked at hyperconnectivity, I realized it is time to redesign the world. So today, world has two designs: American design, which is based on taking the same design forward: democracy, human rights, capitalism, consumption, military. And then you have Chinese design, which is Belt and Road Initiative, which says China is going to be prominent. What I'm proposing is a third design, because both of this design, Chinese design and American designs, are based on command and control. What is good for America is good for the world. What is good for China is good for the world. But that's not going to work in a hyper-connected world. So when I look at the design 75 years ago, I realized that lots of things happen in between. World got decolonized, led by Mahatma Gandhi. In a short span of 25 years, the entire world got decolonized. No one ever thought this would happen. Similarly, rise of China, fall of Soviet Union, 9/11, democratization of technology, rise of inequality, and finally, COVID-19. COVID-19 tells me that we are all interconnected, interwoven, interdependent, interrelated in a very special biological way. What happens in one part of the world affects the entire humanity. You cannot isolate yourself. No one ever thought that a small virus in middle of nowhere will put entire world to halt. It happened. So to me, COVID-19 says there are only two things important in life. One, planet, and two, people. Planet doesn't need us. We need planet. So we need to make sure that our air is pure, water is drinkable, forests are intact, animals, birds, bees are part of our integrated system, remain healthy so that we can live. We can't start killing everybody so that only we can live, because then it will affect us also. And at the end of the day, people matter. But we have divided in our own mind people by saying this is black and white and brown and yellow. This is Hindu and Muslim and Christian and Buddhist and Jewish and Muslim or whatever. Or based on region, Asian, African, European, American, or languages. But at the end of the day, we all come from same place, Africa. We all have same genetic makeup, 98, 99%. Okay. So how do we create a world that focuses on planet and people? So my design that I propose is all about planet and people. See, today when all the global leaders meet, They talk about geopolitical equation. They talk about trade, military hardware, and they are marketing. They're basically marketing agents in a sophisticated way. And I'm saying that has to change. Global leaders will have to focus on planet and people. Okay. Hold on, I have another. Can I just take one simple call?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be a little late. Okay, but I'm joining. Yeah, just I think I would request you to start and I will join. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I think the basic idea was to relook at the design. The design and the change has to be evolutionary and not revolutionary. So my proposal is that we have to take democracy to inclusion. None of the democracies are inclusive. We have a problem in India with Dalits and others. We have a problem in America with Black Lives Matter. And there is a problem everywhere. So we must decide that we are all same. We must treat people with respect, dignity, whether they are black, brown, short, tall, rich, poor, urban, rural, educated, uneducated, they are human beings. My grandfather couldn't read or write, but he was a great man. Then we need to really focus on basic human needs and not human rights. We need to really create new capitalism. The capitalism today is such that wealth has been concentrated in the hands of very few. We need bottom-up development. We need decentralized decision-making. You know, given a choice, I would like in India 650 districts to have total independence to decide what they want to do and plan at a district level development and not at a central level. But how do you do that? Yeah. Then realize that consumption is not necessarily the answer. We need conservation and sustainability. Absolutely. And finally, we spend too much money on military. Today, we spend $2 trillion on military every year. We can eliminate hunger for $200 billion. 1/10 of the price. Not one global leader during Corona crisis said that I'm going to reduce my budget and I'm going to improve health systems. Why? I don't understand. Not one global leader said, because of the Corona crisis, lesson I have learned is we need better and more investment in improving our health system. So that is the kind of leadership we need, but we don't have that kind of global leadership. Global leaders today are petty, narrow-minded, worry about competitive world, worry about, slogans and lies and, all is bogus. Okay. They're not looking at humanity. They're not looking at sacrifice. Okay. And they think politics is about debating society. You go say whatever you want to say on TV, you don't mean what you say and you don't say what you mean. That has to change. So I'm proposing a third design of the world, which is based on networking of nations, getting domain experts to decide, decentralize everything, bottom-up development, small is beautiful. All of these are new ideas put together. These ideas have been around for quite some time, but hyperconnectivity allows us to implement these ideas that we couldn't do before. That's
brilliant.
We had like 7-8 questions over here, Sangram.
I don't think
they're all related to digital hyperconnect. I think Sam, you've answered all of them for some reason.
I think it's I think it's the first, not one of the, I think it's the first session where I think Alok and me did not ask any of the questions that we had because we just didn't want to stop your flow. I think.
Sorry, I think it took a little longer. I didn't realize it's already 7:30.
No, no, it's
We
8
have gone
o'clock.
over
But
an hour.
honestly, we just didn't want to stop your flow at all because there was so much of learning and so much of more than learning. I think there was so much of wisdom that was coming, and a lot of questions got answered. I still very strongly feel that we haven't got enough of you because
Another one, whenever you like. Okay, I'll be happy to share with you. Because the message has to go out to younger people.
yeah,
That life is a great gift that we all must enjoy, share, experience, collaborate, co-create, and live, with comfort. There's no need for hate for anybody. What would I get by hating somebody?
absolutely.
I need to love everybody and enjoy and experience. And, I may never meet you again in my life. So I want to make best use of our interaction. I want to enjoy our company and not worry about our differences.
I think what was fascinating about today's session was the personal values in terms of character building, which you shared from your initial experiences of the
I
Gandhian
tell
values.
all that the most important thing is to build good self that you can respect yourself, self that is rooted in certain values, self that is open, transparent, honest, creative, disciplined, has moral fabric, ethical. If you build that, everything else is irrelevant.
Absolutely. And is the book out, Sam? Is the book out in stores?
I get a lot of people telling me I've been humiliated. I said, why? He said, because I didn't get this. I said, look, nobody can humiliate you except yourself. How can somebody humiliate you if you don't want to be humiliated? So I think a lot of problems start because we don't have a good self.
Yeah.
Our self is very fragile.
Start loving
Everybody is ready to be hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always said that there are 4 important issues in India: Man, Apman, Saman, and Abhiman. People get hung up on these things.
Absolutely.
And we have to move on.
Yeah.
So, Sam, is the book already out in the market?
It is out in the market. It has been published by Penguin. It is available on Amazon, Google, and all of that, everywhere, all over the world. And all I can do is begin new conversation. I can't change the world.
Absolutely.
I'm not capable. But can we have a new conversation? Maybe next generation. Again, it's about planting seeds and not worrying about growing tree or getting fruits out of it. Somebody has to be in the business of planting seeds.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
I think we've kind of exceeded our time, but it was very enlightening. Yes, Alok.
Absolutely. I think today, Sam, we had students. So someone asked me, can I invite students? I said, absolutely. Yeah. So we had students, startups, we had CEOs, we had people who were very young and very old. And I think you gave all the ingredients of an extremely inspiring conversation. So thank you
very much for your opportunity. And maybe we need more of these. Okay, thanks. I didn't know that Sangram is in movie business. We should talk about that at some point in time. Okay.
Absolutely. I don't think I don't think our conversation has ended. I think it has only begun because I'm truly fascinated by your worldview. And I deal with, like I said, we work with Facebook, so we deal with tech. And there are so many of these issues which we didn't cover in today's conversation. Should big tech be restricted? What happens through hyperconnectivity? Does hatred, does fake news, does lies, how does that get propagated and how do we deal with those? So there are so many topics.
You have to peel layer after layer.
Absolutely. So I think I'm going to take this as a start of a conversation and not the end of it. And I think I'm definitely pick on that.
And thank you for what you all do. And my compliments to you and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very, very much.
So with that, I think we call it a day for the kickstart of season 3. And like you must have observed, I think we've changed our trajectory from, speaking about industries and businesses, and gone on to more of learning from stories of individuals, people who inspire. And even our next guest for the next session is one similar person. I think we are talking about Mayank Gandhi. And Mayank Gandhi is the person who was instrumental in forming AAP and bringing the AAP government to power. Later got disillusioned with politics after playing on a large canvas for such a long time, and then went on to found this organization called Global Parley. And his entire mission in life is how do you, in true reflection of what we heard from Sam also today, is that how does wealth generation start bottom up? And the world has actually become an unequal place. And I think one of the ills of capitalism is that wealth is concentrated in just too few hands. And that's what Mayank's mission is that how does he empower the farmer to actually make a lot more money than what he is today? And how does this wealth distribution imbalance correct itself? Very, very fascinating story. We just heard that on call 2 days back. And that's what we'll be exploring in Guts Glory Story. And we have similar conversations lined up. It's not just about success, but I think it's more about character building. It's more about uh, inspiring nation building. Those are some of the topics that we'll be covering in this season. So that's it, folks. I think we've exceeded our time by 10 minutes. Any last words, Alok?
Nothing at all. I think wonderful, wonderful, wonderful session today. The start couldn't have been better. And thank you very much, Sam. We need to also formally thank Shahzad as well as Prabhat, who got us to you, and they are both on the call today. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
And it's a goodbye from us. See you again next Friday at 7 o'clock.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.